Hi, I'm Justine Louise. Welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. Normally I do a lot of beauty reviews, but I have also promised I'm going to do some things on travel. My husband and I travel a lot, and I just thought I would share some of our experiences and travel tips with you, and hopefully they can help you when you're planning your next vacation. Now, a vacation we're going to be taking up pretty soon is a safari to the Kruger National Park. Now, whenever I mention to people that I'm going on safari and to the Kruger, they have so many questions for us. And my husband and I have actually been there. I think this might be our 10th year. I'm not quite sure. What started off is it was kind of a trip of a lifetime, and then it actually turned into an annual trip. My husband's actually from South Africa, and when we first got married, he used to tell me about holidays that they used to spend in the Kruger Park as a family when he was a kid. And we both really love animals, and I remember saying to him, wow, I would love to go there one day and see it. And he said, well, why don't we do that? And so we planned this wonderful holiday there, and we just loved it so much that, as I mentioned, we go there every year. We did actually skip last year. When you go every single year, you kind of lose the excitement, and it is a very far away trip for us. We live in Canada, so I just thought we'd maybe take a year break, and it actually is really good because now I'm really excited about going in February coming up. So I thought what I would do is film for you some things that we've learned along the way. When we first booked our trip there over 10 years ago, everything was done by fax. There wasn't a whole lot of online things, and my husband just had to go based on memory of areas and things like that. So it was really difficult, but now the internet has made it so much easier, and I just thought I would share some of our tips with you. So I'm going to be doing a 5-part series on this because there is so much information about the Kruger Park and going on safari in general. So I thought I would break it all up, and that way you can just look at what videos interest you or what you're interested in finding out about. So they're all pretty much going to start off the same way of giving a little bit of background on us, so I apologize for that. But today's video is basically Kruger National Park for foreigners in a nutshell. And I probably will be looking down quite a bit to check my notes because my husband and I have painstakingly gone over trying to think of every single detail that we can pass along to you. So the first thing we should start off is saying, what is the Kruger Park? It is a government-owned game reserve, and it's located in South Africa. And it is approximately, I think, 20,000 square kilometers. It is huge. When my husband and I go, we usually go for a month, and we haven't even scratched the surface. That being said, we do kind of gravitate to the lower part of the park because that tends to be where the animals are more populated. The more northern areas tend to be more for birder enthusiasts. But my husband and I love our cats. So we tend to go to the areas where there tends to be a lot more cats because there is a very diverse areas. The fauna and flora is totally different. Some parts are desert-like and some places are more tropical, so that's where the animals kind of migrate to those different types of areas. So anyway, that's kind of in a nutshell. And how we get there, there's several different ways, but coming from Canada, we fly to Johannesburg, and that seems to be the closest international airport for us. And then from there, we take a plane to an airport that's actually located inside the Kruger Park in the Camp Skukuza. Previous to that, though, that is quite a new thing. We used to fly into Kruger International Airport, Kruger Mpumalanga. Just so you know, I will put links of everything down below as well. And from there, we would drive into the park. So we would land in Kruger Mpumalanga, then get a rental car, and it was about a 45-minute drive. My husband being from South Africa, he's very nervous about safety. Even though we've never had any issues in or around the park, he's just back to old school, is just would rather fly directly into the park. So that is what we've been doing the past few years. But there are several airports in and around the Kruger Park that we have flown into. We've flown into Hoodspite, and then it's a very quick drive to get to the Kruger Gate. We've also gone to Palaborwa, and then of course, as I mentioned, the Kruger Mpumalanga, which is in the town of Nelspruit. Now, sorry, you could also drive there. A lot of locals obviously drive into the park from their homes. And if you landed in Johannesburg, I've met many people in the Kruger Park that have actually driven from Johannesburg and just rented a car and driven the whole way. But again, like I mentioned, my husband's really into safety, so we always fly into the park. What's very unique about the Kruger Park is that it is self-drive. My husband and I like going in our own vehicle, and I will get into details more later, that you can also have a safari where it's all done for you as well. But what appeals to us is renting our own vehicle. It's just my husband and I, and we drive around. That way we can stumble upon a lion and sit with him for 8 hours. And we have. We have been on safari vehicles, and it's a large group of people, and somebody gets on the safari vehicles, I want to see a giraffe, and that was me the first time we went. And then we go and we on search for a giraffe, and my husband and I have seen thousands and thousands of giraffes, and as lovely and majestic as they are, we're always on the hunt for the cats. So when we do stumble upon one, we like to spend a lot of time with them. So that really appeals to us. We also like how we can come and go as we please. We can start off when we want. If we're tired and had enough, we can go back. We can go as many times as we want, or if we decide we don't want to do a drive, we can do that as well. And we also have the luxury of having our own vehicle, so we can do as we please and take in other activities that are in around the Kruger Park. So we just really enjoy having a self-drive. There aren't many game reserves out there that offer that. I believe in Namibia there's Natasha, but we haven't gone there yet. And there are a couple here and there, but nothing that stands out like the Kruger Park. So that is one of the big draw cards for us, is the self-drive option. But there are, you can do private safaris where a vehicle will take you out. It's usually with a group of other people. It's a little bit more expensive. And of course, the private game reserves also offer only safari driven things. You can't do self-drive. And in the Kruger Park as well, in the main rest camps, they do also offer safari vehicles to go out in on game drives, and we have participated in those, and they're fantastic. But I will get into all those later. I'm just kind of giving you a nutshell here. In the Kruger Park, you're basically able to find all African animals. The only thing that I haven't seen that I expected I would see in Africa is a meerkat. They actually don't have meerkats in the Kruger Park, believe it or not. But everything else, you'll see the big five, tons of birds, reptiles, and all the fuzzy things, as well as antelope and everything. And it's really fun to have a checklist and kind of keep track of what you've seen and what you haven't seen. There are still some animals to this day, even after going 10 plus times, that we have not seen yet. So it's always fun to create a list and be always on the lookout for those particular animals. The temperatures, we tend to go in February because I live in Canada and we want to escape our cold. We've gone there and it's been 48 degrees, which is pretty unbearable, but we do enjoy the heat, and we don't mind because we'd rather go at a hot time of the year just to escape our cold weather. But we have also traveled there in May, and it was actually really quite cold. When we go out on our game drives, we go at 4 in the morning, and it was actually freezing. And we also had gone on a private safari vehicle, which is all open air, and I was frozen to the bone. I actually wore a hat, scarf, mitts, a jacket, and I was literally freezing. So I'm not really keen on doing safaris at that time of year because everything is planned around the outdoors. I'm a big wimp and I'd rather be in the hot weather. You also do sometimes get some rain. We've had some spectacular thunderstorms while we've been there as well. And I've also gone in November, and the days are quite pleasant. Again, in May, the afternoons are quite nice, about 20 between 20 and 25 degrees, so sitting by the pool in the afternoon is quite lovely. But just those evenings and mornings were a little bit too cold for us. Even though we are hardy Canadians, it's just a bit cold, like I said, when everything's geared for the outdoors, and their rooms aren't really equipped for cold weather. They're used to the heat and things like that, so they don't have the same kind of heating systems we have in North America. There are different camps inside the Kruger. The majority is the government-owned ones, and they have them broken down into 3 groups. They've got main camps, and at a main camp, that's usually where I like to stay, because they usually have a restaurant, they'll have a gift shop / grocery store, they'll have a lot of amenities in there, and they're larger camps with tons of rooms available and lots to do. There are also what's called bush camps. I've never actually stayed at those because I'm not very keen, because they don't have restaurants or a grocery store. So you have to bring all your own food with you, and even if you run out of something, you can't rush to the shop and grab it. So to me, I don't really like that. I don't particularly like preparing all my own food. We do it some of the time. I do like doing restaurants most of the time because I am there on vacation and I don't really feel like cooking. And there are also luxury lodges, and those can be extremely expensive. We have stayed in those a few times before. I can elaborate on that in another video if you like, because this is more just about the Kruger. But you can rent privately owned luxury lodges there as well, and they're really, really spectacular. Something else I was going to touch on in the camps is there's different ways to get food. So you can, a lot of the rondavels that we stay in, they do have small little kitchenettes in them, so you can prepare your own food, and they all have barbecues, or what they call braais, so you can do barbecues every evening. At the restaurant they do, at the grocery store inside the camps, they do have basic supplies, so you can pick up some groceries in there, or bring your own, or get them from outside the park at more of the bigger grocery chains. There are restaurants, so you can have all your meals at the restaurant, which is handy. And sorry, I guess that's kind of the two there. So for me, like I said, I prefer going to restaurants. And as far as the accommodations in these camps, there's the option to camp. So majority of the campers, of course, are going to be locals. I wouldn't recommend an international visitor to do that, because you just have to bring way too much stuff. They're rondavels. You can get them that just for 2 people. You can also get them large to accommodate a whole family. There's all different sizes for everybody. You can have some of them that have kitchenettes inside them, as well as bathrooms. That's what my husband and I always get. But you can also get just a rudimentary room. Some of them don't even have washrooms, so you would share with the campground. They have public toilet facilities and showers and things, and they also have communal type kitchens where you can get hot water, and there's hot plates and things like that. We did that one year and never again. I don't like going and making tea at 4 in the morning and walking to a communal kitchen when it's pitch black and you can hear hyenas. I'm sorry, no, that's not mine. I didn't enjoy that, but some people enjoy that. And just so you know, all the camps have electric fence around them, so you're perfectly safe. I've never really heard of many incidents where an animal has got in. I've heard of old stories from long ago, I don't know, but anyway, you're perfectly safe inside the camp. The currency that they take there is the South African rand, and for me in Canada, our money is almost 10 to 1, so it's quite nice. Our money goes quite a long way, which is great. They do also take Visa in a lot of the camps. If you go to the restaurant and things like that, you should have no trouble using your Visa card. But if you're just stopping to grab a drink or something like that and you just want to use cash, they do take South African rands. I've never tried using any other currency. I don't know. I'm sure they would love some Canadian, American dollars. I don't know. But we always use the rand or a Visa card as a backup. Just so you know, all the gas stations that are inside the park are cash only. So make sure you do take some cash with you if you're doing that. everybody speaks English, so you don't need to worry about that. And they do accommodate a lot of different languages. Their main languages in South Africa is English and Afrikaans. So I noticed that there's a lot of Dutch visitors as well, and they communicate very easily with the Afrikaans. Every day the gates open and close at a certain time. I mentioned there's an electric fence around the gate, and it depends on the time of year, but it's usually around 5 or 6 a.m. and they close every evening at roughly 6 p.m. And again, those dates and times change throughout the year. The reason for that is they shut everything down, so they don't want any guests traveling on the roads at night, because that is the main time when the animals like to hunt for food, and they don't want us interfering with that. As well, it is dark, it's hard to see, so you're not really able to see many of the animals, and they don't want you shining flashlights in animals' eyes. And also its visibility is difficult, and they don't want you hitting any of the animals, obviously. The speed limits in the park are between 30 and 50 kilometers an hour, and we like to be as slow as possible, because you never know when an impala might run across because they're being chased by something, or they just do like to run, and they do bolt out in the middle of the road. So we'd like to see as little animals as possible getting hit by vehicles. They have a tough enough life as it is, trying to stay alive without having human interference as well. So anyway, they do close the gates at those times, and that way you are locked in inside the camps. And just so you know, if you are late, you do get fined. And I do believe if you consistently break the rules, I have heard, I don't know for sure, but I have heard that they've banned people from the Kruger Park for things like that, as well as speeding. So just keep that in mind. They are very strict with their opening and closing times. And as far as safety, as I mentioned, my husband's from South Africa and is very particular about safety, and I'm talking about theft and things like that. Outside the park, he is very nervous still to this day, just because of his previous experience when he lived in South Africa. But as far as inside the park, honestly, I've never felt unsafe whatsoever. Our rooms, some of the doors are just sliding glass doors with just one of those flick locks, and I've never once felt threatened or unsafe. All the staff are amazing. We've left valuables in our room when the cleaning staff come in and out. I've never had a single issue. But of course, you know, you have to be careful, same as any hotel that you're staying in. But I've never had any bad experiences whatsoever with safety or theft. I do know there, as you probably have heard of rhino poaching, that there are a lot of poachers floating around, but they are more in the depths. They're not going to be where all the people are, or in the camps and things like that. So, and they do have those, they have people on top of that all the time, checking and investigating poaching, because it is a huge problem in the park. So as far as safety from humans, we feel 100% safe, and I'd like to pass that on to you, to not to be concerned about that, but same as going anywhere, you have to be street smart. As far as animal safety inside the camps, you're totally fine. As I mentioned, I've never had any incidents with animals breaking in or heard of any incidents, but I'm sure it does happen. I mean, a leopard could climb a tree and then jump, but they're always very on top of trimming any bushes around the camps to make sure everybody is safe. And they have cattle, I can't remember what the word, cattle gates, where they're a cattle grate, so that animals can't walk in and out through the gate, because the gates are fully open during the day. There are, however, animals inside the camp, such as warthogs. There's sometimes deer that you'll find, different types of antelopes, and monkeys. The monkeys, as gorgeous and as cute and wonderful and fun to watch as they are a bit of a menace. So you do need to be careful. I've had them breaking into our pantry many times, even though there's locks and we turn our fridge around and all that kind of stuff. They still, they're very clever and they have plans and they work together as teams. So please be aware of that. If you're don't want them breaking into your pantry and stealing your food. I had to literally fight a baboon for my protein powder one year, and luckily one of the maids came with a broom and shooed him away. Because they are quite vicious as well, so you have to be very careful. And again, they look adorable and fun and cute. Even the little ververts that are just so adorable and lovely, they can be quite vicious, especially when it comes to food. So please be careful, and please never ever feed the animals, because as much as and as tempting as it is, you want to give them a little treat or something, and they look and they beg. It causes them to become a nuisance, and unfortunately then they have to execute the animals, because then they start becoming aggressive and expecting food from humans. So please do not ever feed the animals. So anyway, that's basically the safari in a nutshell. And as I mentioned, I am going to be doing a series, and I'm going to be expanding on some of these topics a little bit more in depth. But that's pretty much in a nutshell of the Kruger Park. It is such a wonderful place to visit. My husband and I, as I mentioned, it was supposed to be a trip of a lifetime that turned into an annual trip, because we love it so, so much. And I hope it's around for many, many years, and I hope you enjoy it too. So anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to list them below. I'm happy to help in any way that I possibly can. And stay tuned for the rest of my series, and I can touch more onto more of these items. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please click like. And if you'd like to see more travel tips, please hit the subscribe button, and you'll be up to date on everything I post. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.